My kids made fun of me in front of all the guests. They didn't know I was the secret majority owner of the company they worked for. The next day, they were all fired and came knocking on my door. But let me back up. Let me tell you how we got there. Before we continue, we ask you to hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We would like to get to know our audience better. The Palmer House ballroom glittered like a jewelry box someone had shaken too hard. Chandeliers dripped light onto 200 faces, all of them drinking my scotch and eating shrimp I'd technically paid for. 30th anniversary gala for Ellison Freight Systems. My company. Well, their company now. Officially. I stood near the bar, nursing a mineral water, watching Nick work the crowd. My son, 36 years old, operations director, custom suit that probably cost more than my first truck. He had his arm around some venture capital guy, laughing too loud, gesturing with his free hand like he was closing a deal. The VC looked bored but polite. "Dad!" Nick's voice carried across 3 tables. "Dad, come here. Tell Barry about the old days." I walked over. Barry extended a hand. I shook it. "Jack Ellison," I said. "The founder," Barry said. "Impressive legacy." "Ancient history," Nick said, grinning. "Dad here used to drive the trucks himself, can you imagine? Now we use route optimization algorithms and real-time logistics tracking. Different world." "Must have been simpler back then," Barry said. "Simpler?" Nick laughed. "Try primitive. Dad's idea of market analysis was calling his buddies at truck stops and asking what loads they were hauling. No data, no projections, just gut feelings and handshake deals." Barry smiled politely. I smiled too. "Those handshake deals built the foundation you're standing on," I said quietly. Sure, Nick said, waving his glass. "And we're grateful, but let's be honest. If we ran the company the way you did, we'd be bankrupt in 6 months. The freight industry isn't about loyalty anymore. It's about margins and efficiency." "Is that what they teach at Kellogg?" I asked. He missed the edge in my voice entirely. "Among other things. Anyway, Barry, what I'm saying is we've modernized every system. Dad's generation built with muscle. We're building with technology." "Sounds like a natural evolution," Barry said, already looking for an exit. I let him escape. Nick moved on to another cluster of guests, repeating variations of the same speech. My son, the prophet of progress. Helen appeared at my elbow. My wife, 58, silver hair cut sharp as a blade, wearing black like she was attending a funeral. In a way, maybe she was. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "Fine. You're smiling." "I'm supposed to smile. It's a party." "That's not your party smile," she said. "That's your crocodile smile." I took a sip of water. Across the room, Claire was posing for photos with the Chicago Tribune business reporter. My daughter, 33, PR director, married to some hedge fund associate whose name I could never remember. She had her head tilted just right, showing her good side, one hand resting on her hip. Professional charm, camera ready. The reporter asked her something. Claire laughed, touched his arm, leaned in close. "She's good at her job," Helen murmured. "She should be," I said. "I paid for the degree." "They both think they earned everything themselves." "I know. Does it bother you?" I looked at my wife. 29 years of marriage. She knew the answer before she asked. "It bothers me that they're careless," I said. "Entitlement I can live with. Stupidity I can't." Helen's expression didn't change, but something shifted behind her eyes. "What did you find?" "Later." The evening dragged on. Speeches, toasts, a video montage showing the company's history, grainy footage of me loading pallets in 1995, then a quick cut to Nick presenting at a logistics conference last year. Progress, evolution, the passing of torches. Claire took the microphone around 9. She thanked everyone for coming, praised the team, acknowledged the company's roots. Then she raised her glass. "To my father," she said, smiling directly at me, "who built something wonderful and had the wisdom to step aside and let the next generation take it forward. To Jack Ellison, and to knowing when it's time to let go." The crowd applauded. Glasses clinked. I raised my water in return. Helen leaned close. "They just gave you permission," she whispered. I didn't respond. Didn't need to. We left before the dessert course. Helen drove. I stared out the window at Chicago's skyline, watching the lights blur past. The city looked clean from a distance. Always did. "How bad is it?" Helen asked. "Bad enough." "Jail bad?" "No. Just theft and incompetence." "Your children?" "My children." She nodded. We drove in silence for a while. Our house sat in Evanston, north of the city, a brick colonial with a detached garage and a garden Helen pretended to care about. We'd lived there since Claire was in elementary school, paid off the mortgage in 2010. I went straight to my office. Helen followed. I opened the safe behind the fake bookshelf. Yes, I have a safe behind a bookshelf, I'm aware of the cliché, and pulled out the folder. "Everything's here," I said. "Trust documents, share certificates, board voting proxies." Helen sat in the leather chair by the window and started reading. She'd been a corporate attorney before the kids were born. Retired early, officially. Unofficially, she just shifted her practice to a single client. Me. "You never transferred the majority stake," she said after a few minutes. "No. They think you're a minority shareholder, 10%, symbolic. That's what they think. But the trust structure gives you 51% voting control." "Yes. Why didn't you tell them?" I sat down across from her. "Because I wanted to see what they'd do if they thought I was powerless. Turns out, what they do is steal." Helen flipped through the audit summaries I'd compiled over the past 6 months. Expense reports, wire transfers, credit card statements, nothing dramatic. No offshore accounts or embezzlement schemes, just steady, casual theft. Nick using company funds for personal vacations, upgraded car leases, private club memberships. Claire billing the company for personal PR consultants, luxury hotel stays, designer wardrobe for client meetings. "This is sloppy," Helen said. "They thought no one was watching. And you were. Every day." She set the folder down. "What do you want to do?" I looked at her. My wife, my partner, my co-conspirator. She wasn't asking if I wanted revenge. She was asking what form it should take. "I want them to understand," I said. "I want them to feel what they made me feel tonight. Small. Invisible. Yesterday's news. And then? And then I want them to realize I was never powerless. I want that realization to arrive exactly when it's too late to matter." Helen smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. "How long do you need?" she asked. "George can have everything ready by morning. The rest is just timing." "Then let's time it perfectly." I opened my laptop and composed a brief email to George Bennett, EFS's corporate counsel and my oldest friend. The subject line was empty. The body contained 4 words. "Initiate verification protocol. 6 a.m. I hit send. The laughter from the gala still rang in my ears. By tomorrow, the audience would change. I didn't sleep much. Didn't need to. I functioned on worse than 4 hours before, back when I was hauling freight across 3 states and doing my own bookkeeping in truck stop parking lots. You learn to operate tired. You learn to think through fatigue. At 5:30, I made coffee. Helen was already up, dressed in a charcoal suit like she was heading to court. Maybe she was, in a way. "George confirmed," I said, checking my phone. "Everything's ready." "When do you want to move?" "Now." We drove separate cars. Helen went straight to George's office downtown. I took the scenic route, circling past EFS headquarters twice before pulling into the parking garage at 6:45. Early enough to seem routine, late enough that security would be awake. The guard at the entrance nodded when I swiped my badge. "Morning, Mr. Ellison." "Morning, Frank." My badge still worked. Of course it did. I'd made sure of that. Nick and Claire had been so focused on their titles and salaries that they'd never bothered checking the security protocols. I was listed as founder emeritus with full building access. Not that it mattered. I owned the building. I took the elevator to the executive floor. Empty. I walked past Nick's office, past Claire's, past the conference rooms with their glass walls and ergonomic chairs. Everything looked expensive and sterile. We used to have metal desks and coffee rings on every surface. Now it looked like a tech startup. Exposed brick, motivational posters, a foosball table someone bought and nobody used. George was waiting in my old office. Technically a shared meeting room now, but still coded in the system as Ellison J. He looked exactly like he had 20 years ago. Rumpled suit, coffee-stained tie, permanent expression of mild disappointment with the universe. "You're really doing this," he said. "I'm really doing this. They're your kids. They're thieves." George set his briefcase on the table and started pulling out documents. "Legally, you're airtight. The trust structure is ironclad. Your voting rights supersede their executive authority. The board will back you once they see the audit." "How many board members know?" "3. The CFO, the COO, and me. Everyone else gets briefed this morning." "And the evidence?" "Documented, verified, cross-referenced. Every transaction flagged for compliance review. Nick's expense reports alone are a gold mine of stupid. Company car used for personal trips to Miami, Vegas, Aspen. Claire's even worse. She billed $60,000 in strategic consulting fees to a firm that doesn't exist." "Doesn't exist?" "It's her college roommates LLC. They invoice EFS, split the money, call it networking. Technically fraud, practically just creative accounting, but it violates every corporate policy we have." I sat down, felt the weight of what I was about to do. Not regret, just recognition. You don't dismantle your children's lives without acknowledging the gravity. "What's the timeline?" I asked. "I've scheduled an emergency finance review at 8. CFO presents the findings to senior leadership. By 9, their corporate accounts are frozen pending investigation. By 10, HR formally suspends their access." "Do they know yet?" "No. You want to tell them, or let the system do it?" I thought about that. There was a certain appeal to letting them discover it themselves, waking up to find their keycards deactivated, their emails locked, their authority simply gone. Clean, impersonal, procedurally correct. But that wasn't enough. I wanted to see their faces. "I'll be here when they arrive," I said. George nodded. "You're paying me to say this is a bad idea." "I'm paying you to make it legal." "It's legal, doesn't make it smart." "I don't need smart right now, George. I need final." He packed up his briefcase. 8 o'clock, conference room B. Don't be late to your own coup." He left. I stayed in the office, watching the sun rise over Lake Michigan through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The city looked clean in the morning light. Deceptive, that cleanliness. Employees started arriving around 7:30. I heard voices in the hallway, keyboards clicking, the coffee machine gurgling in the break room. Normal sounds. A normal Tuesday. Except it wasn't. Nick arrived at 7:55, rolling in like he owned the place. Which, to be fair, he thought he did. He was on his phone, barking at someone about shipment delays, gesturing with his free hand. He walked right past the office I was in without looking. Claire showed up 10 minutes later, impeccable as always. Hair perfect, makeup perfect, smile perfect. She stopped to chat with an intern, asked about her weekend, complimented her shoes. PR instincts never off. Neither of them noticed me. At exactly 8 o'clock, George's email went out to senior leadership. Emergency financial review, conference room B, attendance mandatory. I watched through the glass wall as people started filing in, the CFO, the COO, department heads, and then Nick and Claire, looking confused but not concerned. Why would they be? They were executives. They belonged in that room. I waited 5 minutes. Let them settle. Let them start wondering why they'd been summoned. Then I walked in. The room went quiet. Everyone turned. Nick's expression shifted from confusion to irritation. "Dad? What are you doing here?" I took the empty seat at the head of the table. "Attending a meeting." "This is a leadership meeting," Claire said carefully. "I think there's been some confusion." "No confusion," George said. He stood, opened his laptop, and connected it to the wall monitor. "Jack called this meeting. He has voting authority to do so." Nick laughed. "Voting authority? Dad's a minority shareholder. He doesn't have 51%, I said quietly. Silence. "What?" Claire's voice was very small. George pulled up the trust documents on screen. Jack Ellison retained majority ownership through a legal trust structure established in 1998. The shares were never transferred. You were both granted executive positions and generous salaries, but ownership remained with your father. I watched understanding dawn on their faces. Not just surprise, horror. The slow, creeping realization that everything they'd assumed was wrong. "That's not," Nick started. "You said you were stepping back. You said—" "I stepped back from operations," I said. "Not from ownership. There's a difference." "Why?" Claire asked. "Why would you lie to us?" "I didn't lie. You assumed. I let you." The CFO cleared his throat. "If we could move to the agenda?" "Yes," I said. "Let's." George advanced the presentation. Expense reports, wire transfers, credit card statements. Every transaction highlighted, annotated, cross-referenced. 60 slides of systematic theft. Nick's face went pale. Claire's remained frozen, but her hands started trembling. "These discrepancies have been flagged for compliance review," George said. "Under Corporate Policy Section 12.4, any executive found misusing company resources is subject to immediate suspension pending investigation." "This is—" Nick's voice cracked. "This is targeting. This is vendetta." "This is documentation," I said. "Everything on that screen came from company systems, your signatures, your approvals, your choices." "We'll fight this," Claire said. She'd found her voice, cold and sharp. "We have lawyers. We have rights." "You have employment contracts," George corrected, "which include morality clauses and fiduciary responsibility standards. You violated both." I stood up. "Effective immediately, your corporate accounts are frozen. Your building access is suspended. Your company vehicles are being recalled. HR will provide exit documentation by end of day." "You can't do this," Nick said. He stood too, hands flat on the table. "You can't just—" "We're your children." "Your employees," I said, "and you're terminated." I walked out. Behind me, I heard Nick shouting, heard Claire's sharp intake of breath, heard George's calm voice explaining procedures and timelines. I didn't look back. The parking garage was dim and cool. I walked to my car slowly, letting the adrenaline drain. My hands weren't shaking. That surprised me. I'd expected some physical reaction, rage or grief or something. Instead, I just felt calm, clear. I was halfway to my car when I heard footsteps behind me, fast, angry. "Dad!" I turned. Nick was running toward me, tie loosened, face red. He looked like he'd just finished screaming. "We need to talk," he said. "We just did." "No, we need to actually talk, not in front of lawyers and CFOs, you and me." I waited. He caught his breath. "This is insane," he said. "You're destroying our careers over—" "What? Some expense reports?" "Every executive uses company resources for personal—" "Not every executive," I said. "Just careless ones." "It's standard practice." "Then you won't have trouble finding new employment." His jaw tightened. "You're really going to do this? You're going to throw us out over petty accounting issues?" Those petty accounting issues add up to about $200,000 over 18 months. That's not a rounding error, Nick. That's theft. It's not theft if what? If you think you deserve it? If you think the company owes you? I work 80-hour weeks. I've tripled revenue in 3 years. Using systems and infrastructure I built. Standing on a foundation I poured. And instead of being grateful, you laughed at me. You called me primitive. There it was. The real wound. Not the money. The disrespect. Nick's expression shifted. For just a second, I saw something like understanding flicker across his face. Then it hardened into anger again. So this is about your ego, he said. We hurt your feelings at the gala, and now you're punishing us. This is about consequences, I said. You took what wasn't yours. You mocked the person who built what you were taking. You assumed I was powerless. You were wrong. I'm your son. That's why I'm not having you arrested. I turned back toward my car. Nick grabbed my arm, not hard, just enough to stop me. Don't, he said. Please, Dad, I'm sorry. We were drunk. It was a party. We didn't mean, yes, you did. I pulled my arm free and kept walking. Behind me, Nick's voice rose. You'll regret this. You think you can't treat us like this. We'll sue. We'll go to the press. I stopped, turned around. There's a security camera right above your head, I said, pointing, and about 40 employees who can hear you threatening me. So if you want to make this worse, keep going. He looked up, saw the camera, saw the 2 women from accounting standing by their car, watching with wide eyes. His hands curled into fists. For a moment, I thought he might actually swing. Part of me almost hoped he would. It would simplify everything. But he didn't. He just stood there, breathing hard, looking lost. I gave you everything, he said quietly. No, I said. I gave you everything. You just spent it. I got in my car and drove away. Helen was waiting at home when I arrived. She'd made sandwiches, turkey and Swiss, my favorite, which meant she knew I'd be too wired to eat, but wanted me to try anyway. How did it go? She asked. Exactly as planned. How do you feel? I sat down at the kitchen table, stared at the sandwich. Like I just fired my children. You did. I know. Helen sat across from me. Do you regret it? I thought about that. Searched myself for doubt, for hesitation. Found none. No, I said. I regret raising people who thought they could steal from me and laugh about it. But I don't regret stopping them. They'll come back. Probably. What will you say? Nothing they want to hear. My phone buzzed. Text from George. Claire's lawyer called, requesting meeting. I told him to submit requests in writing per corporate policy. He was unhappy. I texted back. Good. Helen took a bite of her sandwich. You know this is going to get ugly. It's already ugly. Now it's just public. The press will cover it. Let them. Your grandchildren. Don't, I said. Claire doesn't have kids. Nick's daughter is 7 and she hasn't visited us in 2 years. They're not going to suddenly weaponize grandchildren we don't see. Helen nodded. She knew I was right. The kids had kept their distance even before this. We were convenient resources, not family. My phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again immediately. Again, I ignored it. Third time, Helen said, Maybe you should answer. I picked up. Yes? Mr. Ellison? A woman's voice, professional, cool. This is Amanda Cross from the Tribune. I'm following up on a story about executive changes at Ellison Freight Systems. Do you have a moment to comment? No. I understand there were some irregularities in... I hung up. That'll be a fun article, Helen said. Probably. We sat in silence for a while. Outside, I could hear neighborhood sounds. A lawnmower, kids playing, someone's dog barking. Normal life, continuing. The world didn't care about my corporate revenge drama. George is scheduling the board meeting for tomorrow, I said. 10 a.m., full review, formal vote. Do you need me there? No, but I want you there. Then I'll be there. My phone buzzed again, this time a text from a number I didn't recognize. Dad, it's Claire. They took my phone, but I borrowed someone's. We need to talk, please. I showed Helen. She read it, handed the phone back. Do you want to respond? She asked. Not yet. When? When I'm done. She understood. This wasn't about reconciliation. Not yet. Maybe not ever. First, they had to understand the full scope of what they'd lost. Had to sit with it. Had to feel the weight of their choices. Tomorrow, the board would make it official. Tomorrow, they'd be formally removed from every position, every committee, every thread of authority they'd held. Tomorrow, they'd understand what powerless actually felt like. I took a bite of the sandwich. It tasted like cardboard, but I ate it anyway. Helen was right. I needed to keep my strength up. This wasn't over. That night, my phone didn't stop. Texts from former colleagues asking what was happening, emails from vendors wanting to confirm the company's stability, 3 voicemails from Nick, progressively more desperate, 4 from Claire, progressively more angry. I listened to none of them, deleted most, forwarded the relevant ones to George with a note, document everything. Helen and I watched the 10 o'clock news. The Tribune had run a brief segment. Shake-up at local freight company. They used our gala photo, me in a tuxedo, smiling blandly, while Nick and Claire flanked me like accessories. The reporter mentioned allegations of financial impropriety and internal restructuring. Corporate speak. Nobody's version of the truth. They made it sound like a scandal, Helen said. It is a scandal, just not the one they think. We went to bed around 11. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, running through tomorrow's board meeting in my head. George would present the evidence first, clean, factual, impossible to dispute. Then the CFO would explain the financial impact. Then I'd speak, briefly. I'd learned long ago that the person who talks least in a negotiation usually wins. Around 2 a.m., I heard a car in the driveway. Headlights swept across the bedroom window. I got up, looked out. Nick's BMW. He was sitting in the driver's seat, engine running, staring at the house. Helen stirred. What is it? Nick. She got up, joined me at the window. We watched together as he opened the car door, then closed it again. Opened it. Closed it. 3 times. He was gathering courage. Finally, he got out, walked to the front door, rang the bell. I didn't move. He rang again, then knocked. Then called through the door. Dad, I know you're awake. Your bedroom light's on. Please, just 5 minutes. Helen looked at me. Your call. I went downstairs in my bathrobe. Stood in the entryway for a moment, listening to Nick breathing on the other side of the door. Then I opened it. He looked terrible. Suit wrinkled, tie gone, eyes red. Drunk or crying or both. Thank you, he said. Can I come in? No. His face fell. Dad, you can say what you need to say from there. He swallowed. I'm sorry. About the gala, about the expenses, about all of it. I was arrogant, and I was wrong, and I'm sorry. Okay? Okay? That's it? What do you want me to say, Nick? I want you to... He gestured helplessly. I want you to forgive me. I want you to fix this. I can't fix this. You broke it. So what, that's it? I'm done? My career's over because I made some mistakes? Your career's over because you stole from the company you were supposed to be running. I didn't steal, I borrowed, I was going to pay it back. When? Silence. That's what I thought, I said. Please, Nick said. His voice cracked. Dad, please, I have a mortgage, I have car payments, Emily's college fund. If I lose this job... You should have thought about that before. I wasn't thinking. I was stupid. But people make mistakes. You've made mistakes. Not like this. So, you're perfect now? You're judge and jury and... I'm the owner, I said. And you're trespassing. Go home. This is my home. No, it isn't. Not anymore. I started to close the door. Nick grabbed it, held it open. Don't, he said. Dad, please. I'm begging you. I'll do anything. I'll pay it back. Every cent. I'll work for free. I'll take a demotion. Just don't do this. I looked at my son. Really looked at him. Saw the desperation, the fear, the complete lack of understanding about why this was happening. He still thought it was about money. Nick, I said quietly, do you remember what you said at the gala? About my generation building with muscle and yours building with technology? Yes? You were right. But you forgot something. Muscle doesn't quit when things get hard. Muscle doesn't steal when no one's looking. Muscle shows up every day for 30 years and builds something worth having. I've worked hard. You've worked smart. There's a difference. And when things got easy, you got lazy. And when you got lazy, you got careless. And when you got careless, you forgot that everything you had, someone else built. That's not fair. It's accurate. I pulled my arm free from his grip. Go home, Nick. Sober up. Start looking for a new job. And when you find one, show up on time, work hard, and don't steal from them. Dad, we're done. I closed the door, locked it, stood there listening to him breathe on the other side. After a minute, he left. Helen was on the stairs when I turned around. Proud of yourself? She asked, not accusingly, just curious. Ask me tomorrow. I'm asking now. I thought about it. Yes, I think I am. She nodded. Good. We went back to bed. This time, I slept. Morning came cold and bright. October in Chicago, the kind of day that looks beautiful through a window and cuts like a blade when you step outside. I dressed carefully. Dark suit, blue tie, cufflinks Helen bought me for our anniversary. Armor for what was coming. George had sent the board packet at 6 a.m. 50 pages of evidence, policy violations, financial impact assessments. Everything documented, everything airtight. Helen drove. I read through the packet one more time, making notes in the margins. Not because I needed to. I'd memorized every line. But it gave my hands something to do. You're nervous, Helen said. No. Your left knee's bouncing. I looked down. She was right. I stilled it. Okay, I said. Maybe a little. Why? You have all the votes. Because they're still my kids. Helen didn't respond. Didn't need to. She understood. The drive downtown took 40 minutes. Traffic was light for a Thursday morning. We passed familiar landmarks, the water tower, Millennium Park, the old brick warehouses being converted into luxury condos. Chicago was always changing, always becoming something new while pretending to honor what it was. Do you remember when we first came to this city? Helen asked. 1987. We had $300 and a used pickup truck. You thought you'd fail within a year. I gave myself 6 months. And here we are, 38 years later. Here we are, I echoed. We parked in the executive garage, the same garage where Nick had confronted me 2 days ago. The security camera above my parking spot was still there, still recording, evidence of everything. Helen touched my arm before we got out. Last chance to change your mind. I'm not changing my mind. I know, I just needed to say it. We rode the elevator in silence, walked through halls that felt different now, charged, tense, like the air before a storm. Employees who passed us nodded respectfully, but their eyes were curious. Word had spread. The whole company knew something big was happening. The boardroom was on the top floor, glass walls, long table, leather chairs that cost more than my first 3 trucks combined. Very corporate, very impersonal. Exactly what this needed to be. 6 board members were already there. The CFO, Rita Walsh, gave me a tight nod. She looked tired, probably stayed up late preparing her portion of the presentation. The COO, Thomas Brennan, looked uncomfortable, shifting in his seat like he wished he was anywhere else. The other 4, investors mostly, looked curious and slightly annoyed at the emergency meeting cutting into their schedules. George stood at the head of the table, laptop ready, briefcase open. He'd worn his court suit, the expensive one he saved for hostile depositions. "We're missing two," I said. "They're aware of the meeting," George said carefully. "Whether they attend is their choice. Nick and Claire. Of course." I took my seat at the opposite end of the table from George, power position. Helen sat to my right, silent and observant. She'd brought a leather portfolio, but hadn't opened it yet. The room felt heavy with anticipation. Rita checked her phone. Thomas poured himself water with a shaking hand. One of the investors. Marcus? No, Michael. Michael Rodriguez. No, different name. Michael Patterson checked his watch twice in 30 seconds. At exactly 10 o'clock, the door opened. They walked in together. United front. Claire looked like she'd been to war and won. Sharp suit, perfect makeup, cool expression. She'd chosen armor too, I realized. We were all wearing armor today. Nick looked like he'd lost, rumpled, pale, defiant in a way that screamed desperation. His tie was crooked. His eyes were red-rimmed. He'd been drinking or crying or both. They sat at the far end of the table. Neither looked at me. The silence stretched. George led it. He was good at that, using silence as a weapon. Finally, he cleared his throat. "Thank you all for coming," he began. "This meeting has been called to address serious compliance violations within executive leadership." "Objection," Claire said. Her voice was sharp, controlled. George paused. "This isn't a trial, Claire." "Then why does it feel like one?" "Let him finish," I said. She looked at me then. Really looked. Her expression was cold enough to frost the windows. I held her gaze. Didn't blink. Didn't flinch. After a moment, she looked away. "Fine," she said. "Let's hear the prosecution." George clicked through his presentation. The first slide showed the company logo and the date. Professional, impersonal. Then the evidence began. Slide 2. Nick's expense report from March. Vegas trip billed as client development, except the client he claimed to meet had passed away 6 months earlier. Slide 3. Claire's clothing budget. $15,000 in 3 months, all classified as brand management, including a wedding dress for her friend's destination wedding. Slide 4. Hotel rooms, not just expensive, excessive. Presidential suites, penthouse accommodations, places where the nightly rate exceeded most people's monthly rent. Slide 5. Concert tickets, sports packages, spa days, wine club memberships. $200,000 over 18 months, George explained. Each transaction documented, each one violating corporate policy, each one signed off by the people sitting at the end of the table. The board members' expressions shifted as they watched. Surprise melted into disappointment. Disappointment hardened into anger. Michael Patterson leaned forward. "How long have you known about this?" "I've been documenting it for 18 months, I said. "Why didn't you bring it to the board sooner?" "I wanted to be thorough. I wanted to be sure." "You wanted to build a case," Claire said coldly. "Yes." Rita shifted in her seat. "The financial impact goes beyond the direct costs. These violations created a culture of entitlement. Other executives started pushing boundaries. Small things at first, longer lunches, personal calls on company time, then bigger things. We've had to investigate 3 other expense report irregularities in the past month alone." "This is selective enforcement," Nick said. His voice was too loud, too defensive. "Every executive uses company resources for—" "Not like this," Rita interrupted. "Not at this scale. Not with this level of deception." "Deception?" Nick's face flushed. "I'm not a liar." "You listed a client who's no longer alive," George said mildly. "What would you call that?" Nick opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "That was an administrative error. Someone in accounting—" "You signed the report, Nick. Your signature. Your responsibility. The slides continued, each one more damning than the last. Personal trainer fees charged as wellness consulting, family vacation photos tagged as site visits, a Rolex watch classified as a client gift that somehow never left Nick's wrist. Claire sat frozen through most of it. Only her hands moved, fingers drumming silently on the table, a nervous tell from childhood that she'd never managed to break. When George finished, Rita stood. "I've reviewed these findings personally," she said. Her voice was steady but tight with suppressed anger. "Every transaction has been verified against corporate policy. Every claim has been cross-referenced with actual business activities. The violations are clear and substantial. They represent not just policy breaches, but a fundamental betrayal of fiduciary duty." She paused, looking directly at Nick and Claire. "You were trusted with executive authority. You were given access to company resources. You were expected to model ethical behavior for the entire organization. Instead, you treated the company as your personal bank account." "That's not fair," Claire said. "We've generated millions in revenue. We've grown the company. You've done your jobs," Rita said, "for which you were paid generous salaries. That doesn't give you license to steal." "It's not stealing if what, Claire? If you feel entitled to it, if you think no one will notice, if you believe the rules don't apply to you." Claire's composure cracked, just slightly, a tightness around her eyes. "This is a setup. This is Dad getting revenge for what?" I asked quietly. She looked at me. "For the gala. For what we said. You're humiliating us because we hurt your feelings. I'm holding you accountable because you broke the rules. Selectively. You're applying these standards to us, but not to..." "To whom?" George asked. "Name one other executive who has charged this level of personal expenses to the company. Give me one name and we'll investigate them too." Silence. Thomas Brennan cleared his throat. "I'd like to hear from Jack." The room turned to me. I stood slowly, feeling the weight of every eye. "I'm not here to argue," I said. "The evidence speaks clearly. What I want to address is intent and impact." "Intent!" Claire's voice dripped scorn. "Yes, intent. I built this company to provide for my family. Not just my immediate family, all our families. Every employee here has a family. Every driver, every dispatcher, every accountant and receptionist and warehouse worker. They all have mortgages and car payments and kids who need braces. They depend on this company to be stable and honest and fair." I looked around the table. "I built this company so you would have opportunities I never had. Good education, good jobs, security. I gave you positions you didn't earn yet, salaries you hadn't proven you deserved, authority you weren't ready to handle. I did that because I believed you'd grow into it, that you'd treat it seriously, that you'd respect what you'd been given." I looked at them directly. "Instead, you stole. Not aggressively, not dramatically, just steadily, casually, like it was your right. And when I tried to stay involved, to offer guidance, you laughed at me. You called me primitive. You celebrated letting go of someone who never actually let go." "Dad," Nick started. "I'm not finished." He closed his mouth. "The question before this board is simple," I continued. "Do we accept this behavior from our executives? Do we ignore policy violations because of personal relationships? Do we compromise our standards because firing family is uncomfortable? Do we tell our employees that there are two sets of rules, one for regular people and one for the boss's kids?" I paused, letting the question hang. Because that's what we're really deciding here. Not whether Nick and Claire violated policy. They did. Not whether the violations were serious. They were. We're deciding what kind of company this is, what we stand for, what we're willing to tolerate. Silence filled the room. Heavy, suffocating. "My vote," I said quietly, "is no. No, we don't accept this. No, we don't ignore it. No, we don't compromise. Because if we do, we're not a company anymore. We're just a family business where some people get to break the rules. I sat down. George called for the formal vote. Resolution to terminate executive positions of Nick Ellison and Claire Grayson for cause, effective immediately. Discussion? Michael Patterson raised his hand. I want to acknowledge that this is difficult. These are Jack's children. We all understand the personal cost of what he's asking us to do. Noted, George said. But I also want to say that I respect it. It takes courage to hold your own family to the same standards as everyone else. And if we don't vote yes today, we're telling every employee in this company that standards don't matter if you're connected. So you're voting yes? George asked. I'm voting yes. One by one, the board members spoke. Each one acknowledged the difficulty. Each one voted yes. When it came to Rita, she looked directly at Nick and Claire. I'm sorry, she said. I genuinely am. But I have to protect this company. And I can't do that if executives are stealing from it. Yes, she said. Thomas hesitated longest. He'd worked with Nick closely, considered him a friend, maybe. Yes, he finally said. His voice was barely audible. George recorded each vote carefully. Then he looked at me. Jack? Yes, I said. The motion passes unanimously. Nick Ellison and Claire Grayson are terminated from their executive positions, effective immediately, for cause. For a moment, nobody moved. The finality hung in the air like smoke. Then Claire stood. Her chair scraped loudly against the floor. She gathered her things slowly, phone, notebook, pen. Her hands were steady now. The shock had worn off, replaced by cold fury. You'll regret this, she said. Very quiet, very certain, looking directly at me. Maybe, I said, but not today. She walked out. The door closed behind her with a soft click. Nick sat frozen for another moment. Then he stood too. But he didn't gather his things. He just stood there, staring at me. I'll never forgive you for this, he said. I know. You've destroyed everything. No. You did that. He shook his head slowly. History won't be kind to you. History isn't written by people who steal from their own company. Something in Nick's expression broke then. The defiance crumbled. For just a second I saw the little boy who used to follow me around the warehouse, asking questions about trucks and routes and how to build something that mattered. Then it was gone. He straightened his shoulders and walked out. The door closed behind him. Rita started organizing the exit process immediately. I'll coordinate with HR and IT. Access revoked by end of day. Security will collect badges and company property. George made notes about transition plans. We'll need interim appointments for both positions. Thomas, can you handle operations temporarily? I'll do my best. The other board members murmured among themselves, discussing optics and succession planning and damage control. I just sat there, feeling the weight of what I'd done settle into my bones. Helen appeared in the doorway. She must have been waiting outside. It's done? She asked. It's done. How do you feel? I thought about that. Searched myself for guilt or grief. Found none. Lighter, I said. The rest of the day moved like machinery. HR processed the terminations. IT revoked system access. Security collected ID badges and parking passes. By noon, Nick and Claire were officially civilians. George handled the press releases. Ellison Freight Systems announces leadership changes effective immediately. Former executives departed following internal compliance reviews. The company's operations remain stable under founder Jack Ellison's continued guidance. Corporate speak. True, technically. Cold as a quarterly report, the Tribune called. I didn't answer. They ran a story anyway. Family freight business severs ties with founder's children. The article speculated about succession drama and generational conflict. Close enough. By 3 p.m., my phone had 17 voicemails from industry contacts asking if I was available for lunch. Vultures circling, looking for gossip or opportunity or both. I deleted them all except one. Alan Richardson, who'd been driving trucks with me in 1992 and now ran a competing firm. His message was 6 words: "You okay? Call if you need." I saved it. Didn't call back, but saved it. Helen made dinner: pot roast, potatoes, green beans, comfort food. She was worried I'd crack now that the adrenaline was fading, but I didn't crack. I felt solid, certain. "What happens next?" she asked over dinner. "They'll try to negotiate. With what leverage? Emotion, family, guilt. Will it work?" I cut into my roast. "No." "You sound sure." "I am." She studied me. "You've changed." "How?" "You're colder. I'm clearer." "Is there a difference?" I thought about that. Maybe not. We ate in silence for a while. The house felt quieter than usual. No grandchildren's laughter. There never had been, not really. No family dinners. Those stopped years ago. Just Helen and me, like it had been at the beginning. "Do you miss them?" she asked. Who they could have been. Yes. Who they actually are. No. That's sad. It's honest. My phone buzzed. Text from George. "Office building security reports attempted entry by N. Ellison at 1742. Access denied. He argued for 12 minutes, eventually left. Incident logged." I showed Helen. She sighed. "He won't give up easily," she said. "I know." What if he escalates? Then I document it and move on. Jack. What? He's still your son. He's still a thief. Helen set down her fork. I supported you through all of this. I helped you plan it. I agreed with every step. But I need you to be sure. Are you punishing them, or are you protecting yourself? Good question. Maybe the best question. I thought about it honestly. Both, I said. They hurt me. They disrespected everything I built. And if I let that pass, they'll do it again. To me, to the company, to whoever's next. So yes, this is punishment. And yes, it's protection. And yes, I'm at peace with that. Helen nodded. Okay. Just needed to hear you say it. You think I'm wrong? I think you're human. We finished dinner, washed dishes together, settled on the couch with coffee and the 10 o'clock news. The Tribune segment aired again. Same footage, same clinical narration. But this time they had a quote from Claire's lawyer. My client denies all allegations and plans to pursue legal remedies for wrongful termination and defamation. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. What's funny? Helen asked. She's bluffing. George wrote those contracts. There's no wrongful termination claim. She knows it. Her lawyer knows it. They're just making noise. Expensive noise. Very. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Mr. Ellison? A man's voice, professional, slightly wary. This is James Park. I represent Claire Grayson. I'm calling to... Save your breath, I said. George Bennett handles all legal matters for me and the company. Submit everything in writing. He'll respond within 5 business days. I'd prefer to discuss... I wouldn't. Good night. I hung up. Helen raised an eyebrow. You're enjoying this? A little. More than a little. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was enjoying it. Not the pain. I wasn't a sadist. But the clarity, the precision, the simple satisfaction of a plan executed perfectly. They'd laughed at me, called me primitive, treated me like irrelevant history. Now they knew better. Now everyone knew better. George wants to meet tomorrow, I said. Discuss long-term transition planning. For what? Running the company. I'm not getting younger. You're 62. That's not old. Old enough. Are you thinking of selling? I hadn't been. But now that she mentioned it. Maybe, I said. Or restructuring. Bringing in outside leadership. Building something sustainable that doesn't depend on family. That would be smart. Or sad. Both, Helen said. But mostly smart. We watched the rest of the news in silence. Weather, sports, political scandal. The world turning, indifferent to our small domestic drama. Around 11, I checked the security cameras. Force of habit. Front door, back door, driveway, garage. Nothing unusual. No lurking children. No cars idling suspiciously. Just our house. Our life. Quieter now, but ours. I slept better that night than I had in months. The next morning, George's office. 10th floor, corner suite, view of the river. He had coffee ready. Good coffee, not the office sludge. Another reminder that he'd known me 30 years and knew caffeine helped me think. "How are you holding up?" he asked. "Fine." "Really?" "Really." He studied me. "You don't look guilty." "Should I?" "Most people would." "I'm not most people." George smiled. "No, you're not." He pulled out a folder, thinner than yesterday's, thank God. "Next steps," he said. "Legal cleanup, public relations management, and succession planning. In that order." "What's the legal exposure?" "Minimal. Claire's lawyer will bluster, but they have no case. Nick might try to claim emotional duress, but that won't hold. The documentation is too thorough." "How long until they give up?" "Weeks, maybe months. Depends how stubborn they are." "Very." "Then months." I drank my coffee. It was excellent. George had expensive taste when I was paying. "Public relations," he continued. "The Tribune story is out. It's not great, but it's not terrible. You're portrayed as a strict father, not a villain. Could be worse. Could be better. Could be, but better would require giving interviews, and I don't recommend that." Agreed. So we let the story fade. A few days, maybe a week. Something else will replace it. That's how news works. And succession planning? George set down his folder. This was the big question. "Jack, you're 62. The company's stable. You've just removed the presumptive heirs. What do you actually want?" I thought about that. Really thought. "I want to build something that lasts," I said. "Something that doesn't collapse the moment I'm gone. Something better than family drama and stolen expense accounts. That means outside leadership. I know. That means letting go. For real this time. I know that too." George leaned back. "You're sure? Because once you start recruiting external executives, you can't easily reverse course. The company changes. It becomes professional instead of personal. Maybe that's better. Maybe. Or maybe you lose what made it special. What made it special was me showing up every day and doing the work. That's gone now anyway." George nodded. "Fair. So we recruit. CFO first, probably. Rita's good, but she's not permanent leadership good. Then COO. Then eventually a CEO who isn't you." "How long?" 2 years, maybe 3. You can't rush succession without spooking investors and clients." "I can live with 2 years." "Can you live with being a figurehead?" Another good question. Could I? Could I sit in board meetings and smile politely while someone else made decisions about my company? "Yes," I said, "if it means the company survives me." "All right then." George made notes. "I'll start putting out feelers, quietly, very quietly. We don't want this looking like a fire sale." Agreed. "And if your kids ask?" "Tell them the truth. The company's moving forward. Without them. Especially without them." George closed his folder. "You're sure about this? Once we start down this road?" "I'm sure." He studied me one more time. Looking for doubt, probably. Found none. "Okay," he said. "Then let's build something that lasts." We shook hands. I left. The rest of the week was administrative. Conference calls with investors, meetings with department heads, reassuring everyone that the company was stable, the transition was controlled, the future was secure. Everyone asked about Nick and Claire carefully. I gave the same answer every time. They're pursuing other opportunities. We wish them well. Corporate speak. True, technically, cold as a quarterly report. Friday afternoon, Rita stopped by my temporary office. "Got a minute?" she asked. "Sure." She closed the door, sat down. "I need to tell you something," she said, "and you're not going to like it." My stomach tightened. "What?" Nick's been calling our major clients, trying to poach them. Of course he was. How many? 4 so far. Thompson Logistics, Great Lakes Hauling, Midwest Distribution, and Carey Industrial. What's he telling them? That the company's unstable, that you're senile and vindictive, that he's starting a competing firm and can offer better rates. I absorbed that. Is it working? No. Thompson told him to lose their number. Great Lakes forwarded his email to me. The other 2 haven't responded. But they might. They might. I sat back, thought it through. Send a memo, I said. Professional, brief. Confirm that EFS operations are stable and leadership transitions are proceeding as planned. Include client testimonials if you have them. Make it clear we're not panicking. Already drafted. Wanted your approval first. She handed me her laptop. I read the memo. It was perfect. Calm, confident, factual. Send it, I said. And Nick? Document everything. If he makes any claims that are provably false, we'll address it legally. Otherwise, let him dig his own grave. Rita nodded. You're taking this well. What's the alternative? Panic? Some people would. I'm not some people, she smiled. No, you're not. After she left, I sat alone in the office, staring at the wall. Nick was desperate. That made him dangerous. Not physically. He wasn't aggressive. But reputationally, he could do damage. Spread rumors, poison relationships, burn goodwill I'd spent 30 years building. I called George. Nick's making moves, I said, and explained. George sighed. Predictable and stupid. Can we stop him? Legally? Only if he makes specific false claims we can prove. Ethically? He's a free citizen. He can say what he wants. And if clients believe him? Then they're not your clients anymore. That's it? That's business, Jack. People leave. Companies fail. You can't control everything. I built those relationships. And they'll hold or they won't. But you can't spend your energy chasing Nick around the industry, swatting down rumors. You'll drive yourself insane. He was right. I knew he was right. Fine, I said. We focus forward. That's the spirit. I hung up, stared out the window at the city. Chicago spread out below me, vast and indifferent. All those buildings, all those people, all those lives intersecting and diverging and carrying on. My drama was mine alone. The world didn't care. Somehow, that was comforting. The weekend brought rain. Cold October rain that turned the streets gray and sent everyone indoors. Helen and I stayed home, reading and cooking and existing in comfortable silence. She'd taken up gardening magazines lately, planning next spring's planting, she said, though we both knew she'd lose interest by February. Sunday afternoon, my phone rang. Local number I didn't recognize. Yes? Mr. Ellison? A woman's voice, young, nervous. This is Ashley Brenner. I worked, in the PR department under Claire. All right. I'm calling because I thought you should know. Claire's planning something. I sat up. What kind of something? I don't know exactly, but she's been meeting with a PR crisis firm downtown, the expensive kind, and she asked me for copies of all the company's social media passwords and client contact lists. Did you give them to her? No, I'm not. I didn't think that was right. But she got angry, said I owed her loyalty. You did the right thing calling. I don't want to get involved in family drama. I love this company. I don't want to see it hurt. It won't be. Thank you, Ashley. I hung up and immediately called George. Claire's hiring a crisis PR firm, I said, and trying to steal company data. Of course she is. He sounded tired. The data theft's a problem. Corporate espionage, technically. We can pursue it legally. Do we want to? Do you want your daughter arrested? I thought about that. The image of Claire in handcuffs being led away. The headlines. The humiliation. Part of me wanted it. That dark, vengeful part that she'd awakened at the gala. But the rest of me... No, I said. Not arrested. But we need to protect the company. I'll send a letter to her lawyer. Cease and desist. Make it clear that any use of proprietary data will result in immediate legal action. That'll just make her angrier. Good. Angry people make mistakes. After the call, I told Helen what Ashley had said. She's not going to let this go, Helen said. Neither am I. Jack. What? This is escalating. She escalated it. And you're responding in kind. Where does it end? When she stops. Helen set down her magazine. Or when you do. I looked at my wife. 29 years. She knew me better than anyone. You want me to back off, I said. I want you to think about what winning looks like. You've fired them. You've humiliated them. You've taken away their careers. What more do you need? I need them to understand. They understand. They just don't agree. Then they haven't learned. Maybe they never will. Maybe some people can't learn. And if that's true, what are you accomplishing by continuing this? Good question. Maybe the best question. I'm protecting what I built, I said. Or you're feeding your anger. Can it be both? Helen sighed. Yes, but one is healthier than the other. We sat in silence. Rain drummed against the windows. Somewhere in the house, the heating kicked on with its familiar rattle. I'm not backing down, I said finally. I didn't think you would. But I'll be smart about it. No unnecessary escalation. Just protection. That's all I'm asking. Monday morning, George's cease and desist letter went out. By noon, Claire's lawyer had responded with a letter of his own, furious, aggressive, threatening countersuits for defamation and emotional distress. Ignore it, George said. It's posturing. You're sure? I'm positive. They have no case. They're hoping you'll blink. I won't. I know. Tuesday, the Tribune ran a follow-up story. Freight family feud deepens. They'd found sources, anonymous of course, who described the firing as brutal and vindictive. One source claimed I was mentally unstable and losing grip on reality. I read the article twice, felt my pulse spike. Then I set it aside and went to work. Wednesday, 3 clients called to confirm the company's stability. I reassured them personally. By Thursday, all 3 had renewed their contracts. Friday, Nick tried to schedule a meeting. Just to talk, his email said. No lawyers, no agenda, just father and son. I deleted it. 2 weeks after the board meeting, things started to settle. The press moved on. Clients stopped asking nervous questions. The office returned to normal rhythms. George reported that Claire's crisis PR firm had been paid a retainer and then quietly dropped her. Probably realized she had no case, he said. Nick's competing business never materialized. No funding, George explained. Nobody wants to back someone with his reputation. I should have felt satisfied, vindicated. Instead, I just felt tired. Are you okay? Helen asked one night. Fine. You don't look fine. I'm just processing. Regret? No, just acknowledgement. This is my life now, estranged from my children, running a company I'm planning to leave, 62 years old and starting over. You're not starting over, you're finishing strong. Is there a difference? She smiled. Ask me in 2 years. That night, I couldn't sleep. I got up around 2 a.m., went to my office, pulled out the old photo albums, pictures of Nick as a toddler, laughing in a swimming pool, Claire at her high school graduation, proud and bright, family vacations, Christmas mornings, birthday parties. When had it gone wrong? When had they stopped being those kids and become what they were now? Or had I just stopped seeing them clearly? I closed the album, put it away. The past was done, the future was uncertain. All I had was now, and now I was in control. 3 weeks after the terminations, I got the knock. It was late, past 9. Helen and I were watching television, some mystery show we'd already seen, but couldn't quite remember. Headlights swept across the living room window, car in the driveway, then another. Expecting someone? Helen asked. No. I went to the window. 2 cars, Nick's BMW and Claire's Lexus. They were both getting out. moving slowly, not aggressive, defeated. The rain was starting again, light but cold. "They're here together," I said. Helen joined me at the window. "Both of them?" "Yes. That's new." It was. Nick and Claire had never been particularly close. Different personalities, different priorities. The only thing they'd shared was their contempt for me. And now that was gone too. The doorbell rang. Helen looked at me. "What do you want to do?" I thought about it. Thought about letting them stand there in the rain. Thought about the satisfaction of watching them get soaked while I stayed warm and dry inside. But I'd made my point. Continuing to twist the knife wasn't strength. It was cruelty. "I'll talk to them," I said. "Are you sure?" "No, but I'll do it anyway." I opened the door. They stood on the porch, both drenched. Claire's perfect hair was plastered to her skull. Nick's expensive suit was ruined. They looked small. "Dad," Claire said. Her voice was quiet. "Can we come in?" "No. Please, we need to talk." "Then talk." Nick stepped forward. "We're sorry, both of us. We were wrong. We disrespected you. We stole from you. We laughed at you. And we're sorry." I waited. "We've lost everything," Claire continued. "Our jobs, our reputations, our savings are gone. Nick's wife left him. My husband filed for divorce. We have nothing." "You have your health," I said. "Dad, you have your education, your skills, your futures. You just don't have what you took for granted." "We know," Nick said. "We know that now. We understand." "Do you?" "Yes." I looked at them. Really looked. Tried to see past the rain and desperation to whatever truth lay underneath. "You understand that you were wrong," I said. "That's not the same as understanding why." "We understand why," Claire said. "We disrespected you. You thought I was powerless," I interrupted. "You thought because I was old and retired, I didn't matter anymore. You thought the world had moved past me and left me behind. And you were wrong." Silence. "That's what this is about," I continued. "Not the money, not the insults, the assumption that I was irrelevant, that my 30 years meant nothing compared to your 3. That's what you need to understand." "We do," Nick said. "We understand that now." "Because you lost." "Yes, because we lost. Because we were humiliated and destroyed and left with nothing. We understand." "Do you understand why I did it?" They looked at each other, back at me. "To teach us a lesson?" Claire offered. "To protect the company?" "To punish you," I said. "Yes, and to protect what I built, and to teach you that actions have consequences. All of that. But mostly I did it because I could, because you thought I couldn't, and I needed you to know you were wrong." The rain picked up. Thunder rumbled distantly. "We know," Nick said. His voice was barely audible. "We know now." I reached into my pocket and pulled out a key fob, the one for the company cars they'd been driving. Both cars were technically company assets, leased under corporate accounts. I held it up. "These cars aren't yours," I said. "They never were. They were company property. You were just borrowing them." I pressed the button. Both cars' lights blinked once, then went dark. Remote shutdown, a feature I'd installed months ago, just in case. Nick stared at his BMW. You can't." "I can, and I did. You can call a taxi, or walk, I don't care." "Dad, please," Claire's voice broke. "We came here to apologize. We came here to beg. What more do you want?" I looked at my daughter, at my son, at the 2 people I'd raised and loved and provided for and protected for more than 3 decades. "I want you to rebuild," I said. "I want you to start from nothing, the way I did. I want you to work hard and earn something real. I want you to learn that nothing is guaranteed and everything worth having requires sacrifice." "And then?" Nick asked. "After we do all that, after we prove ourselves, what then?" "Then maybe we'll talk." Maybe? Maybe. I stepped back into the house. Wait. Claire grabbed the door. Dad, wait. Please, we have nowhere to go. No money, no car, it's raining. Please. I looked at her hand on the door, then at her face. Wet from rain or tears. I couldn't tell. There's a bus stop 2 blocks south, I said. The number 47 runs until midnight. You're really going to make us walk in the rain? I walked in worse when I was building what you destroyed. I pulled the door from her grip. She stumbled back. The laughter's paid for, I said. The rest, I'll keep. I closed the door, locked it, stood there listening. Outside, I heard Claire's voice. Nick, what do we... I don't know. We can't just... I know. Footsteps, retreating, fading. Then silence. Helen appeared beside me. She didn't say anything, just took my hand. Through the window, I watched them walk down the driveway. 2 figures in the rain, getting smaller. The cars sat dark and lifeless in the driveway. I felt nothing. No guilt, no triumph, no grief, just certainty. I'd won.